Glam. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good, good. Excited for another in-person interview. Your shop is going to open in a couple weeks.
Yes.
Super excited for you. So I want to talk about your journey, talk about your love of business. But I'm going to steal this question from a guest. So I think it's a great way to start. What did you see yourself doing when you were a kid? What was your dream?
Oh, wow. Okay, so this was not it. I would just start off by saying that. When I was a kid, I used to want to be a police officer.
Okay, all right.
Which is so crazy because that is nothing like who, if people know me, they're like, what? But we used to kind of, playing when we were kids or whatever. But as I started to get older, I kind of so I'm an only child. I grew up with my dad. So a lot of times I'm with my boy cousins or I'm with the boys, so that's when we would play with cops. But as I got older, I'm kind of more girly. I started getting into cheerleading and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know, but I never would have thought even going into hair. As I got older, I went away to college, and even when I went to college, I wasn't doing hair.
Right.
I literally found my love for hair while in college, and I was actually going to school to be a journalist.
Okay.
So it's just kind of been a little bit of a all over the place at one point. But I feel like where I'm at is where I'm supposed to be right now.
Right.
And so it's so crazy how your life can just take a complete turn.
Yeah.
I wasn't that girl that was doing hair and doing all that from a young age. I kind of fell into it at school.
Yeah.
And here I am.
I love that. So at what point, just kind of going from you're in school to be a journalist, but you're kind of dabbling into hair, at what point did you think, hey, I can pursue a career in hair, and then lo and behold, start a business in hair?
So I have this funny story that I always tell people about. In one of my classes, we had to actually give I forget what they called it, but it was a how-to kind of speech.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did my how-to speech on how to do a sew-in, which is so crazy because I wasn't even doing hair like that at the time, but I basically was teaching the class how I do this, and I'm informing them on all this. And then so after I did that, I could always braid, and I guess sew-ins were the foundation of me going into doing hair. But I went to Southern Illinois out in Carbondale, and at the time, we didn't have hair salons or anything like that. We're 5 hours away from Chicago. So I kind of taught myself. And so I would just have to do my own hair. So I would braid my hair up and then sew the extensions in, and I would get all these compliments on my hair. Who does your hair? And I'm like, me. And I just kind of people would just want to get their hair done for homecomings and all these things that we had out there. And then it just was something I just kind of fell into. I started charging. And then we would have these dances and stuff like that. I would be in my dorm room doing people's hair. So I enjoyed that, and I kind of started to be known for someone on campus that was doing hair, and it was just a little side hustle at the time. And then I think I kind of was hey, maybe I can do this. But it wasn't until after I graduated from college that it came back to me, and I actually went to cosmetology school, and that's kind of how I dabbed in that. But even with that, people were my dad was you went to college, and now you want to pay all this money to go to cosmetology school? But I'm yeah. And so, he wasn't a believer then. I had to kind of do my own thing and make sure I had to basically pay my way through cosmetology school while working a full-time job because I still had bills. Yeah. But that's kind of how I got started in this industry. But I was very big on making sure I went to cosmetology school because I was just a kitchen stylist before, just doing it out of my dorm room, doing it out of my dad's house. But I really am very big on the professionalism and really getting the education that I needed. So I went away to I went to cosmetology school while working a full-time job.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love when the story starts with I was just doing this thing.
Yeah.
It was a side hustle and it turned into a business. As you started having this revelation, you decided you wanted to go to cosmetology school. You decided, I'm going to dab into this business. It's more than just a side hustle. at what point were you able to kind of leave your full-time job and actually switch over to full-time hair?
So I say the beauty industry period, because I was working a full-time job at like this company. I was in like accounts receivables or something like that. Nothing I went to college for, but it was paying bills, taking care of things. But when I went to cosmetology school, I was also into makeup as well. So I worked at MAC part-time as I was working at my full-time job. I knew I wanted to get out of my full-time job. It wasn't for me. It wasn't necessarily my passion or anything like that, but hair and makeup was. So while in cosmetology school, I was able to leave that job and stay at MAC. So I was going to school part-time and then I was going to school full-time. So I left that job to go to school full-time, and then I was able to work at MAC part-time. And so MAC was a little bit more able to work with my cosmetology schedule. And I just feel like it kind of went hand in hand. And then when I actually finished cosmetology school, I was able to go and start working at MAC full-time. So I don't think a lot of people know, even with MAC, like MAC was paying me like a corporate job. I had like 401k, I had my healthcare benefits, all of that with MAC. And then MAC actually even paid for me to go to graduate school too. So they had a lot of benefits. So they just kind of like worked hand in hand. So it wasn't until after I finished cosmetology school, started full-time at MAC, and then I utilized MAC to get my master's. And after I got my master's, I was able to like leave everything. I felt like I had the tools. Obviously, I was still doing hair in between, but at that point, I felt like I had the tools where I was building clientele because I was still doing hair on the side while working at MAC. I also did makeup at the time. So it came full circle where I was able to leave, and I went and worked in someone's salon, and I just kind of like started doing that. So it was a journey, and it took some time, but I was always doing hair on the side. But when I finished with my master's, I was like, okay, I can do this now. I feel like I have all the tools that I need to be successful, so I don't necessarily need this job anymore.
I love how strategic it was.
Yes,
right? Like
absolutely.
You got a job that gave you that full-time kind of immersive exposure into the industry you're getting into. And I think that for a lot of people, sometimes you start your side hustle, you realize you like it, you realize it's like a fun thing to do, but that switch of, oh, maybe I still need a paycheck. Maybe I should just get a full-time job doing that thing to like learn the industry, learn how it works. That's really smart. That's a fantastic tactic.
Yes. And I just feel like even with the hair and makeup thing, they go hand in hand. So even while I was working at MAC, I would be building clientele, letting them know they would like my hair. I'm like, yeah, I do hair, passing out business cards. So I was actually utilizing my clientele at MAC also to kind of like take some of those clients and become my hair clients as well. So I was making it work for me.
and for the listeners, the incredible thing is you've done the hair, like my wife said, you're the stylist of the family. You've done hair and makeup for our wedding, our engagement photos, for really every milestone in our life, especially since we've been here in Chicago. So thank you.
Thank you for keeping me in business.
Okay, so you got the MBA, you kind of have the vision. Talk me through like those early days of like, okay, I'm full-time in hair, full-time entrepreneur. How did you figure out the crap that comes with it? Because
so much.
Being a business owner is like, I'm going to make up a number, 20% your passion. The other 80% is a whole lot of stuff that you didn't even prepare for, didn't think about. Probably your MBA came into handy with those things. Talk to me about that transition and trying to solve some of those problems.
So I remember while in school to get my MBA, I actually did my business plan. And that has really helped because you really had to sit down. I used my business that I was planning to create my business plan. So it was like a nice project because it was actually in the works of building this business.
Right.
But I will definitely say that you go into this not knowing much. You have this vision, you feel like this is what I want to do, become very passionate about it, and then I think you just kind of find a way. So I started off working in other salons before. So I didn't just get out there and like, I'm going to open up my own salon. It's like, I knew that I needed to build clientele. I'm new to this industry. I'm a new stylist in Chicago. So I don't have a clientele.
Right.
So I worked in someone else's salon first to help build my clientele. But along the way, I was paying booth rent. So, I'm paying booth rent to work here. But as I kind of started to calculate the money that I was paying this other business owner to work in their shop, my boyfriend at the time, I'm like, he's like, you could be doing that as well. And I felt like he really had that entrepreneur spirit as well. In the time where I didn't even know I had that entrepreneur spirit as well. I think I was paying maybe $150 a week at the time so I'm like, paying almost $800, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I could get my own space and kind of try to figure this stuff out. And I did that. At that time, I was building my clientele. So I was able to go and get a small little suite. It was nothing big, nothing major about it, but it was mine. And at that time, that was in 2017. That's where I was like, okay, let me focus on getting this business on paper. I established my business as a corporation. And at the time, my boyfriend has a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs. He had some friends who were Arabic, and they're really into the business industry. So we would go to dinner with his friend and his wife, and they would let me just sit there and pick their brains apart. I was able to ask them so many questions. I come from a family, we don't have entrepreneurs in my family like that. So this was all new to me. But I enjoyed being able to talk to them and the things that I would learn. And so they actually helped me to kind of set my business up. And it's so funny because where my business is now and the things that I was talking about that I wanted to do with the business, I'm so happy that we set my business up as a corporation. A lot of times I hear everybody say, LLC, but I think that where I'm trying to take the business to, I think that a corporation was actually great for my business. Because I'm able to really separate my personal and my business. So technically, it's like I am an employee of Glam. Yeah. So even when we went through all this pandemic stuff, it really worked for me because it was doing payroll and things like that, and me being an employee. And that goes into a whole nother thing, but it's just so crazy how everything just kind of worked out the way it was supposed to work out. But yeah, that was at the point where they kind of helped me to set it up properly on paper. I started building. I was able to get a small suite. I had money saved up where I was able to get all my equipment, and I just started. And I started getting clients, and it started off as something small, and now we're here. So it's kind of just cool to see that journey in the beginning stages to kind of where I am now. So
that's awesome, and I love the fact that it's the power of relationships, the power of kind of advisors, mentors, just talking to people. And what I've learned is being a full-time entrepreneur for a couple months now is a really supportive community.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
It's you look at it on social media and it's hustle, 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 but honestly, it's less about hustle, it's more about just figuring stuff out.
Yes.
And leaning on other people that have been there before and them showing you, hey, this is how I thought about it, this is how I figured it out. It's actually pretty inspiring. That's probably one of the things that surprised me about it.
And I tell people all the time to be open to talking to people who are in your industry or who've done it or who, people who are doing more or are where you want to be. I'm very big on talking to people who are in better positions in life than me. I feel like I can learn so much. And I think that's the biggest thing is just remaining humble, understanding that you can learn from other people. No one has this game completely figured out. We're all still learning as you go. But it's so nice to have people who have been where you are to be able to talk to you and walk you through it. And although everyone's journey is different, you never know what someone has went through. Maybe it can like be a reason that you don't have to go through all of that. You know what I mean? So I really utilize other people's experiences if it can help me as well, you know, to prevent, you know, a setback and can maybe help me a little bit. So.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, because we talked a little bit before we started shooting. So you started this business, you got your own suite in 2017, I believe. Okay. So you've been at this for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how the evolution of your passion for hair has changed kind of throughout that journey of getting into it for you know, in college, starting your business. Now you have a growing business. How's your relationship with hair evolved?
It has definitely evolved. So when I first started out in this industry, I just wanted to be in people's hair. Like, I just wanted to do someone's hair. I didn't really feel like I had a niche. I just was kind of like doing everything. And I remember talking to a mentor a little bit later. She's like, you know, sometimes stylists will do so many different hairstyles, right? But she's like, I think the stylists who really do well are those stylists who find their niche. They find, like, if they're gonna do braids, they're gonna focus on really perfecting their braids and being the best at doing braids. So when she said that at the time, I'm like, okay, these sew-ins, I wanna be that person in Chicago that people go to for sew-ins. So I really focused in on that. That was what I focused my social media on. And I found that when I was putting that out there, that's what people were starting to book me for. So as, you know, we take that back to now where we are present day, I'm known for these luxury hair extensions, which are microlinks and tape-ins. And honestly, I feel like that is what has really taken my business to the next step. So with these extensions can run anywhere from like $800 to $1,000, and even up depending on the lengths that they have for one client. Okay. So it kind of got me to the point where it's like, you can work smarter, not harder, by taking less clients instead of what I had to do with sew-ins, which I was at the time only charging maybe $150, and then, you know, the cost of hair, but sometimes they bring their own hair. But you think about how many clients you have to take to make $1,000 with this new thing. It's like, I can take one client and make $1,000 just off one client. Imagine if I can take 2 clients and I'm good, you know, in a day. So when I started to like look at things like that, it really forced me to work smarter, not harder. I started to really focus in on this new microlinks was kind of like up and coming. It was like, especially in the as for Black women, we weren't getting these. White women, Caucasian women, they've been getting these extensions for years, but it just kind of started to become popular in the African American community. And so at that time, I'm like, I am going to really take advantage of this being popular, this being a trend right now. And I really focused in on mastering this. I took multiple classes. I traveled with some of the best stylists that were doing it, and I took classes from them to the point where I became like, you take a class here, you take a class there, but then you make it your own, and you kind of like, this is what works for me. I learned something from here, and I made it my own. And I was really able to establish myself as a very well-known hairstylist for doing microlinks and luxury extensions in Chicago. And that really helped to take my career from like, it even changed my tax bracket from the amount of money that I was making from just being someone known as sew-ins to being someone who does luxury hair extensions. So it was great. I mean, but I feel like just really tapping into that niche and becoming that girl for, you know, this certain style, it has really helped me so much, rather than trying to spread myself so thin and doing all these different services on all these different people. That's
super smart, because one of the questions I often ask in these these interviews are, how did you find your niche, right? Or your niche or niche, I don't really know the right way to say it. I say it both ways.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is a lot of people have to start broad, just like you said, you're doing everything, and then at a certain point you step back and realize it's a lot better if I stop spending all of my time doing kind of these smaller projects or these smaller engagements or appointments, I should say, and focusing on the big ticket items. And so as you started leaning more into that and you're like, okay, this is what I do. This is what I'm known for. This is going to be my brand. There's still but so much time in a day. So I'm curious, at what point did you realize that you had a ceiling for how much you could make? Because your time was just limited.
Yeah.
When did that go off again?
Yeah, so definitely, like I said, it's all about working smarter, not harder. So I would get people starting to like reach out to me, asking me about classes. Do you do one-on-one classes? Do you do things like this? So it became like people wanting to learn from me, you know, me having that, I guess, the following where people will want to learn from me. So as far as like time, I would utilize some of my off days and I would start to try to take classes, do classes on the side. I actually hosted my first big class. I did it over at the Viceroy Hotel. One of my clients at the time actually worked there. She's like, I think it would be great for you to host your first class there. So I did that. I started to do a lot with social media and things like that, where I was able to actually get people who wanted to pay me to teach them. And so when I saw how well that class did, I'm like, I could do this. I don't have to just be in the salon all day doing hair. I could actually tap into teaching as well, which I find true passion. And even with some of my former students, one of the things they would say is like, you do a great job of articulating yourself and really like, I really feel like I'm understanding rather than just like watching you do it. You're actually, because I always say to people, it's one thing to be able to do something well. It's another thing to be able to teach someone how to do something well. And I think that I do very well at teaching people how to do what I do. So I just utilized that too, where I came up with, I don't have to just be in the salon all day. I can do what I need to do in the salon and then set certain days to the side so that I can also do classes. And with that brought another source of income too. So it's kind of like you go into that field of like thinking like, I don't have to just do hair. I don't have to just do services. Let's tap into classes. Now we have your hair extensions. Let's tap into this. Let's tap into this. So I feel like the hair is like the center of everything, but it's so many other avenues that I've been able to branch off from hair. You know what I mean? And it's actually been able to be like a huge umbrella for me, which is like Key to Glam. It's so many other things than just the hair and the services.
Yeah, and I love that it all started with listening to your customer.
Yeah.
your customer asks you a question, you're just like, bingo.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty awesome. What through this journey, what are some misconceptions that you had going in? Some ideas you thought this is what it's going to be like until you actually started doing it and it just surprised you?
I think that social media has a lot of people, like, and for myself too, you see these women that are doing the things that you want to do and they make it look so easy. But when you actually get into this industry, you realize it's nothing easy about it at all. Even getting your own space. Like I said, working in someone else's shop and being like, okay, you know, I'm paying them all of this money. I can be doing this myself. But you don't take into account that, you can like $800, okay, instead of paying someone that, you can go in and get a space. But you didn't think about furnishing the space. You didn't think about water or other things. Like not all spaces, my space in particular didn't come with water. So they made me pay to get like my shampoo bowls in there and all that. So many other things that you don't think about. You don't think about business credit, building business credit, and like working through all of that. So it was so many different avenues that as I was starting this process that I'm like, I need funding. I need this. I mean, I have all the money that I need to start this. But the thing is, I tell people, keep going. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're just starting out. You don't have to have everything. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. No one's expecting you to have like this huge salon when you're first starting out. Get you a space. If that means renting out a suite, working in someone's salon, build the clientele so that, and make your money, stack your money so that when you are ready to leave and go to the next level, you are financially ready. Get your credit together. You know, a lot of people, business credit takes a long time to build. It's not just like, okay, you start a business, you start building, and it's like, okay, a year later you're good. A lot of these companies, they want you to have had your business for at least 3 years. So it's like, they're not going to, if you're a new business, they're not going to be just giving you money right away. You don't have anything to show, you know, that you've been successful in this business. So a lot of times people will use their personal credit to basically leverage their business credit and all of those things. So it's so many things that I feel like if I had known then that I know now, I could have made it work for me. But I enjoy the journey. I enjoy the journey of, you know, starting from the bottom and, you know, now we're here. So yeah, it's been a journey. I would just say that. But you don't have everything figured out in the beginning.
Yeah. I'm curious to dive a little bit into the business credit piece. Like what was that journey like? What were the things that were the most difficult for you?
Yeah, so I went through this company called True Bill Credit. And at the time, I'm a small business owner, so I don't have a lot of money to just be throwing into something. I think I started off by paying them like, at the time it was like maybe $750, which at the time, that's a lot of money for me, you know? I'm like, I can do other things with this money and, you know, do hair and make some money off of that. But honestly, that $750 was one of the best investments for me because that company, they understood business credit to a T. They literally would help to get all of my applications together, and they would literally fill out the application for you. They would go over everything. You have to submit all of your applications, but they would help you fill out the applications. They would literally kind of walk you through it as far as like getting your business line set up, making sure that you had everything as far as like on an application, everything that you would need. They would need to call a business line. They don't want to call your personal cell phone, like little stuff like that. Right. Little things as far as like your email address. By using a Gmail versus using a .com for your business, like a keitoglam.com. It was just those little things that they were telling me that these companies look for you to be an established, like for you to look as if you are a legit business. Right. And it's just so those little things that you don't even think about. Okay, I have a Gmail, here's my email. But companies really look at that when they're going to give you funding. So we started from building with gas cards. Those are a little bit easier to get. So I would get credit cards for like gas cards like BP or Shell. And with those, they basically would do like net 30 or like net 45 days. You would use the gas card, pay it off within that time frame, and then they would report to the different bureaus and things like that. We also would use companies like Uline and Granger and all these other companies, which aren't necessarily things that I really need for my business, but I would get like office supplies and things like that, and they would report and they would give you like net 30 or net 45 days, so you were actually building trade lines on your credit report. And so just all of those things that I didn't know, but over time now, if they go and they pull your credit, it's like you have these different trade lines to show that you can pay things back. And so slowly I was just building, but it takes a while because you may do one or two. It's not like your personal credit where you got a couple of things on there. They want to see a consistent timeline that you use money over here, you paid it back, use money over here. They want to see more than just like one or two things. Right. So you start with those smaller accounts and then you get bigger accounts. So then I was able to get like an Amazon credit card where it's like maybe like $7,000. Now we're getting into those type of accounts where I actually utilize Amazon. But the thing with business credit is you got to make sure you're paying things back on time, because if you are one day late, they report it. It's not like on your personal where they give you 30 days before they start reporting. With business credit, one day late, it will be a ding for you, and you don't want that. So that was huge for me, because not only now I can go and I can start applying for certain funding and things like that, because now I have trade lines and I have this whole line of, with Paydex score and all this other stuff. It started to really build my profile for my business. And so that has really helped me when I do need to go get funding, now that I am on a higher level, that I am able to go and say, hey, this is what my business has done, where I can show the cash flow, I can show different things. And on top of that, I can also show that I have my business credit. I've been working and building that. So those things go hand in hand, for sure.
That's awesome. And I think that's one of the things that isn't talked about enough.
No, right? Not at all.
Like capital and raising funds is probably one of the hardest things for a lot of entrepreneurs to do. And to what we were talking about before, the fastest thing that kills a business is cash flow.
Yes, absolutely.
It's just having the runway to be able to get to, network effects or economies of scale or whatever it needs to be. And so I'm glad that early on you were able to kind of work through those things, and I appreciate you sharing how you did it.
Yeah.
That's absolutely critical for someone who's trying to start out as well.
Yeah, and I think what people don't realize, and especially a lot in the African American community, we will almost go broke over our business, like, trying to fund and pay for everything. And I'm like, the smarter thing would be to try to use other people's money to make money for your business. And I think that our mindset on how we look at credit starting off, and it's not always just like, it's not always looked at as a good thing. You know what I mean? And I'm like, we got to start using credit as a good thing. If you do the right thing with credit, it can really work for you.
Yeah.
If you're going to get the money, you have to make sure you're paying the money back. And as long as you're doing that, if you do right by that, it can really help you. And that way we don't have to dig into our savings or, exhaust all of our funds to fund our business. We can really use other people's money to fund our business.
Absolutely. So we're in your beautiful shop.
Thank you.
It's about to open. What does your day 5 years from now look like? Specifically Tuesday, because Tuesday is the most mundane day of the week.
Yeah.
How would you describe that day?
I probably would not be in here. I am very big. I really feel like right now with me being in the salon, I do hair a lot. So that's like my number one source of income. But I plan on having my product line and my hairline be doing very well online. You know what I mean? So not saying I would necessarily get rid of the salon, but this is expensive. This space is an expensive space. And so with everything being big with online sales and things like that, I really want to focus on that. And I want to focus on selling my products online, which we do now, but I just on a bigger scale. So necessarily not servicing clients. I don't plan on this being something that I retire doing. You know what I mean? I want to get out of doing hair. I feel like people don't understand all what we do to our bodies. We're standing on our feet all day. We're tired. And literally some days we are in the salon all day. It has been days when I have started at 9 a.m. and did not leave the salon until almost 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I've been working all day. And although it's like fast money and it's good money, it's just like your body is like, sit down, man. And so you can really burn yourself out in this industry. So I always talk to like stylists and, other stylists who take classes with me. And I'm like, we got to work smarter, not harder. That has to be what we're focused on, because we will burn ourselves out trying to take all these clients. Let's think of ways where we can make money without always just burning ourselves out and overworking ourselves. Let's figure out other ways that we can kind of like get some of that time back, if you know what I mean. So yeah, this isn't the end for me. You know what I mean? Doing hair, I love it. It is what has gotten me started. But I think that it's evolved so much that I can do so many other things with this business.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's pretty cool. Now, talking specifically about the shop, would you say that the shop, you believe, is a stepping stone to do some of the other things that you want to do? Or is it the shop is a part of this kind of grand corporation that you're trying to build, and eventually you want to hire a team of people that just kind of run the shop and you don't have to handle?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right now, I'll have a receptionist that's here. Like I said, with our online sales, with our products and our hair and, just different products and things like that. I have someone that'll be in here selling those products throughout. So this is just like a staple for me where I can hire people, and I eventually want this to run by itself. It doesn't need me to operate. So that's the goal for everything. I just want to be the one running, making sure things are in order, but necessarily I don't need to be here. So that is the end goal. I do love that we do have a location where, you can get things online, but a lot of times, sometimes people want to come into a physical location. They want to be able to see the hair. They want to be able to feel the hair and things like that. So I do like the fact that people can come in and purchase things as well. I also think that this is a great place for content, for social media. So although we're wanting to sell these products, now we have a whole space where we can create this amazing content to really be able to sell those products. So I don't think that this is kind of like, oh, the salon, we don't need this. We definitely need this. Right. It's a lot of money that can be made in here. And let's face it, women are always going to come and get their hair done. So we're always going to be making money in this space. But there are so many other avenues where we can work and make money as well.
So let's talk about hiring help and hiring a team. As an entrepreneur, you're in a position where you've got to do it yourself, but it's almost impossible to do everything yourself. So talk to me about your experience building a team and finding good people that can kind of help you build this conglomerate that you're working towards.
Yeah, that's honestly been one of the most challenging things for me. I am very hands-on with my business. I have built this business from the ground up, so I put everything into it. And then I'm very big on customer service and the customer experience. So when I'm bringing people in, I have to really bring in people who are going to understand the vision of the company, and people who want to work as a team, and most importantly, people who want to grow. I have run into people who they just get so stuck. We do the same thing over and over, so it's kind of like they become content with where we are. And I never want to work with people who are content, because I'm always looking for the next best thing, and I'm always trying to elevate the business. So trying to find help is very hard, because you have to find the right individuals who have the mindset to know that, we may be here today, but we're growing and we're trying to build towards something else, and this is how we're going to do it. Right. So for me, with that, trying to find the individuals who understand that, but also maybe not always having the type of money to pay those people. So it's a balance, because it's like, I don't have all this money to pay these people that are at the top of their game to come and work with me. So I really have to start people who may not be there and really help to build them up, because then I can take them and, I get younger girls who are wanting to get into this industry, and I'm able to build them up. I'm able to, for a 19-year-old, you pay them pretty well, more than they could get working at a grocery store or something like that, but you're also teaching them and you're also building them up. So for me, that's been a struggle. I recently just had an assistant that was probably the best assistant I had. She had been with me for about a year and some months, and to see where she started when I got her and where she is now, and now she's kind of gone off, she's going to school, it's so many other things she wants to experience in life, but to see how she started and where I was able to build her to, it lets me know it can be done. I now have a new assistant, and it's just kind of like nice to see the growth. You know, people are going to kind of go their own ways and grow and do what they need to do. They're figuring out life just like you had to. So it takes time, but you got to really be okay and understand that no one's going to run your business the way you run it. And you got to be okay with that. You know what I mean? Like, we get so crazy, like, I wanted this to be perfect and I want this to be perfect, but we're a business and we're growing and we're figuring it out as we go. But you have to sometimes let go of some of that power. Yeah. And I think that's the hardest thing with business owners, because we want to be in control, but if we're trying to really scale our business and do more, we have to allow other people to come in. You got to know that you're doing the best you can with your training. And sometimes you have to pull people out and add other people in. It's just a part of the business, but you got to be okay with letting other people do the work. And delegating is something that I struggle with, but I'm definitely working on it. I had a client of mine that talked to me about virtual assistants and certain things like that, and kind of like helping you get through certain stuff. So I've been working on trying to get like pamphlets where I can put everything, all the information that I need. Yeah. So these training manuals. And then that way, if I do have to get rid of someone, it's like a plug and play. Now I have the blueprint on what I need you to do, the training and all that. We can go through that, and it's not necessarily where you're so connected, where it's like, if you lose somebody, it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Yeah. Because now you have this training manual that the next person can kind of get in there, and you can train them and teach them the same. So I just think you just got to give up that power of feeling like you have to do everything by yourself.
Yeah. Well, what would you say is the one activity, task that was the hardest for you to let go of?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough question. I don't really know, because honestly, I have my hands in so much. So I will say I get a lot of emails, and I'm very big about like emails and things like that and how I respond, because, you know, I feel like sometimes an email can be like a text message, and the way you say things, like, so a lot of times I will give that maybe to my assistant or have them text something or things like that, and I'm like, no, I don't want it to come off like this, because sometimes that can be your first interaction with a client. So I'm very big on the professionalism, on how we're coming off, making sure we're providing them with information where if they feel welcome to want to come into our establishment and things like that. So trying to teach that to younger girls, and I feel like this generation, they're so used to text with everything that the professionalism through an email isn't always there. So I think that would honestly is like the hardest part for me right now. It's kind of like giving up, like, you can respond to my emails. I'm like, no, I'll handle the emails. We'll keep you over here. But you know, I think it's just with finding the right people, honestly.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest things with finding people is understanding that they're never going to care about your business as much as you do.
Absolutely.
But also, like you said, you got to identify talent, because you don't have the funds to pay for the best talent.
Yeah.
You have to find kind of the sleepers, the people that, you know, just need a little bit of opportunity, and you could be that coach that gets them that next big job. But I love the coaching mindset you have. Yes. It's just like, look, I'm just going to help you develop, get you to achieve your dreams, but at the same time, you're helping me kind of get to where I need to get to.
And that's super important to me. With my new assistant, that was one of the things I talked to her about. Is as much as you're helping me, I want to be able to help you. So what are your goals? What do you want to do in this industry? So that as long as she's kind of like open and letting me know those, I can kind of like make sure I'm doing my part to make sure that you're reaching your goals as well. Not just like everything is about me and what I need for the business, but let's build you up as well. I want to make sure that you feel fulfilled in this position as well, because honestly, that's why people leave. They feel like they can't grow. They feel stuck in a position. And I never want people who work for me to feel like that. I always want us to grow. And even if you start off in a position for me, like, I feel like where the business is going, I'm going to have so many other opportunities where I'm going to need more people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if you've worked with me and you say, okay, Key, this is where I want to eventually go. Yeah, you've worked with me. I've seen your work ethic. I can get you there. Let's focus on that. And then, like I said, because we can plug and play, I can put somebody else in this position and get you in a higher position if that's where you want to go or whatever it is that you want to do. I'm always willing to help people. And honestly, I think that's one of the things about me that I feel like why I'm able to find good help and good workers, because I feel like people do, I'm not selfish with anything. Any of the information, I am like an open book. So if you're working for me and you want to know anything, I will give you all the jewels that I've found along this journey. I'm not holding back on any information. So I think that is something that it can say a lot about a business owner, because it creates a sense of like you being the regular person too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. And good people attract good people.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And I think that at the core of your brand, that's what it is.
Yes.
People are attracted to you as a good person, you as a good mentor, and that's why you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because you have the best salons in Chicago. You do. But it's because of who you are and who you've kind of molded this brand after.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to some quick hitters. You can elaborate as much as you want, but we'll kind of conclude on some of these fun questions. What are some books that you've read that have been super impactful on your journey in growing this business?
One book that I read, and I can't think of who the author is by, but it's called How Successful People Think. And this book, literally, it changes the game for like the way you look at things. And I remember they spoke about some people see the glass half empty, some people see the glass half full. So it's really the way that you're looking at things, the way you look at money, like so many different things. And it's when I started to kind of like think, because I feel like the way I think is not the way normal people think with a lot of stuff. And so, and even when I talk to my dad and things like that, I think very differently. And I think that you have to think outside of the box in order to be successful. It's not going to be your average way that everyone may look at a situation. You have to think about the different possibilities. Think about, sometimes you're looking further into the future while still looking at where you are. And I feel like with entrepreneurship, it's honestly a mindset thing. I feel like you can honestly do whatever it is that you want to do if you have the right mindset.
Right.
Because I feel like your mind will talk you out of so many things. Sometimes we talk ourselves out of things when it's like literally put those positive things out there into the universe. And I really feel like that's what it'll give it back to you. But you have to be conscious of your thoughts and think positive thoughts and where you want to go with your business. So I think that that's a great book that I think a lot of people should really look into. And it's not like this big, long, extensive book. It's literally an easy read, but it's something that kind of helps to motivate you and really look at things differently. And you can see why people have been successful in their business because the way they think about things.
Yeah, awesome. All right, I'm going to add it to the list. Okay. What's a question you think I should ask the next guest on the podcast?
I mean, I guess in any industry it can be different, but really I really like what you said about how do they go about delegating their tasks, because it's a huge thing that you have to start to develop that to delegate people, but at the same time, it's like, it's easier said than done. Like, how do you go about doing that? Because I know for myself, I can come off, everybody's personality is different, right? And I'm a very direct person, right? So I don't ever want to feel like I'm like telling people what to do or things like that. So for me, it's kind of like a struggle because sometimes I'll be like, by the time I tell them and I try to show them how to do it, I'll be like, I could have just done it myself. It would save me time. But I think over time that maybe at that moment it could have saved me time, but over time it'll be like, no, now you have more time because you've delegated that. So I think that a lot of entrepreneurs could really benefit from that. So how do they go about delegating tasks to their staff?
That's a really good question. I'm going to add that to the list. As you were talking about creating the manuals and breaking down the process, I think my time in my career working for large companies, that's one of the things that I picked up and learned, which is, if you want to train someone, you've got to break down the process and like lay it out. And it's smart if you write it down so you can just read it. And so one of the things that I'm kind of constantly working on is writing down what I'm doing if I know that this is something that I want to hire someone for, because at least I have like okay, this is the process, and then you hand it off to this person, then you hand it off, so it's not just all in my head, and the person can read it and ask questions, rather than you have to like literally walk through and then, but then you got to do this, and you got to do this, and they're just confused because they have no idea what you're talking about now.
And it's smart, and it saves you time in the long run. You know what I mean? So like I said, if you do have to hire in someone else, you already have this training manual that you can utilize for the next person and the next person. And it's like, it's all the same thing. Because sometimes you can be like trying to show them something, and maybe you show them something differently, but the next person you show something different. So it's kind of like, it creates like a sense of everything being like in sync and everybody knowing this is how this goes, and then working from there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What, if you were going to listen to the podcast, what type of entrepreneur would you be most interested in hearing their story?
Obviously, I always love hearing like other women in the beauty industry because it is very inspiring for myself. But honestly, I feel like with all the different entrepreneurs and different types of businesses and industries, I still feel like our processes are very much similar. You know what I mean? We all, like especially for scaling your business, we go through a lot of the same things. So honestly, any business, I feel like we spoke about this, I'm interested in business. I love business. So if there's something I can learn and maybe someone went a different route, I feel like it could be beneficial to all entrepreneurs that are, trying to build a business.
Yeah, awesome. All right. My last question. Who's another entrepreneur that you think I should interview?
Does it have to be here in Chicago?
It doesn't have to be here in Chicago. Most of these are actually done through Zoom.
Oh.
So like you're in a special class, you and Jason are in a special class. Shout out to Des, who's the producer on set, that I've done this in person.
Oh, okay. So I actually have she's actually one of my sorority sisters. Her name is Brittany Greyhouse. I think she would be great to interview. She actually is from Chicago, but she's actually living over in London right now.
Ooh, okay.
Yes, and she does a lot in the financial industry, but now she's kind of like branched off and is kind of like doing her own thing. And she kind of did some podcasts and things like that, but she's tapped into like the ATM industry and things like that. So I'll definitely send you her information. You can kind of like check her out, but she's great. She's very inspiring. But yeah, she just took a leap of faith, and now she's over there living in London right now. And she actually just posted recently about building business credit in a different country. And she's saying how it was kind of like started from scratch because, it's a process. But I think that'll be cool because it's something different. But she has a lot of knowledge.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Kei, this was amazing.
Thank you for having me.
I learned a ton, especially on the business credit front, the social media stuff. I've got so many notes. But no, this is incredible. I'm excited for the shop. I'm excited for you. And if there's anything I can do to make you successful or help you out, just let me know.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed this.
Awesome. Thank you.